My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 36 years old, and on August 29, 2019, I died when a tsunami struck Coral Beach and took everything with it. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning. I opened the cafe at sunrise like I always did, barefoot on warm tiles, humming old songs while grinding coffee beans. The sky was pink, the sea calm. Locals wandered in for their usuals. I remember smiling at a little boy with a juice mustache. I remember the smell of cinnamon and salt air. Then came the sound. Low, thunderous. Like the growl of the earth itself. Everyone turned toward the ocean. It had pulled back. Way back. Farther than anyone had ever seen. The sea was gone, and then it came back. A wall of water, black, fast, hungry, rising like a monster from the deep. Someone screamed. Someone shouted run, but there was nowhere to go. I reached for the counter. For the door. For anything. And then, silence. Not death, not pain, just silence. Everything froze. I opened my eyes, but they weren't my eyes. I wasn't behind them anymore. I was above. Looking down. My body was beneath the wreckage. The cafe was gone. The street was gone. The water was still rising. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. I was floating. Not in water. Not in air. Just floating, weightless and aware, like my soul had stepped outside its skin. Then I felt it. Presence. A stillness behind me that was not empty. It was alive, and when I turned, I saw him. He didn't need an introduction. I knew Jesus. Not a painting, not a dream, not the Sunday school version. He was real, and he was looking straight into me. He didn't speak at first. He just watched me with eyes that held the weight of eternity and the softness of a friend. I wanted to fall to my knees, but I had no knees. I was spirit, and he was light. Rachel, he said, and I melted at the sound of my name. Like it was being spoken for the first time. I'm dead, I said. For now. That answer shook me. I looked down again. The town I loved was drowning. People were still fighting to survive. The sea hadn't stopped. My daughter, I whispered. Maya. She's 8. She was staying with my sister. He nodded, she's safe. I broke. Tears, not from fear, but relief, flooded me. Then he reached out his hand. Come, he said. There is something you must understand. In a blink, the sea was gone. We were somewhere else. Above the earth, above nations. I saw cities, roads, villages. I saw people rushing, working, crying, laughing. And then I saw threads. Lines of light stretching from person to person. Some gold. Some flickering. Some broken. What is this? I asked. The network of souls, he replied. Every choice they make binds or breaks a connection. Love strengthens. Fear weakens. Selfishness severs. I saw a man hugging a stranger, and the thread between them blazed gold. I saw a woman gossiping, and the thread dimmed. Then I saw a child on her knees, praying. And from her rose a beam so powerful it lit up her whole block. Jesus turned to me. You wonder if your life mattered. Every smile, every prayer, every quiet act of kindness, it all mattered. More than you ever knew. I tried to speak. To explain how small I'd felt. How unimportant. But he already knew. You ran a cafe, he said. And in that cafe, people felt seen. The weary found rest. The lonely found warmth. That was your ministry, even when you didn't know. I sobbed. Because in that moment, everything I'd done, and failed to do, came flooding back. The morning I gave a free sandwich to a man who couldn't meet my eyes. The time I whispered a prayer over a customer who had just buried her husband. The days I thought I wasn't doing enough. They had all mattered. Then the light around us dimmed. And I saw shadows crawling over the world. Not monsters. Not demons. Just coldness. Distraction. Numbness. Too many hearts are closed, Jesus said. Too many ears refuse to hear. The pain in his voice was unbearable. I turned to him. What do you want me to do? He didn't answer, he just looked into me. And I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. Jesus moved, and I followed. Not with feet, I had none. But with something deeper. We glided over the curve of the world like it was a painting alive with movement and color. Beneath us, the earth pulsed. I saw people arguing in boardrooms, walking past the homeless on sidewalks, scrolling through endless screens without looking up. I saw lives rushing, colliding, unraveling. Why are you showing me this? I asked. His voice was steady, calm. Because you thought you were just one person. But one person carries eternity. I watched a young woman take her grandmother's hand as she lay dying. The thread between them glowed brighter than the sun. Then I saw a man in a crowded airport drop his bag, kneel beside a stranger having a panic attack, whispering words that weren't heroic or grand, just real. That thread connected to another, and another, until the entire terminal began to shimmer. These are the unseen miracles, Jesus said. The kingdom is built in moments like these. Then we passed over a battlefield, not of soldiers, but of souls. People sitting alone in rooms, silent screams behind smiling faces. A boy weeping on a bathroom floor. A couple arguing in the dark. A pastor staring at a sermon he no longer believed in. The air thickened. The golden threads here were frayed, tangled, torn. This, he said, is the war that matters most. Not fought with bullets. But with truth. With hope. I asked, how do we fight something like that? His eyes never left mine. By refusing to believe the lie that your life is small. By choosing love when it costs. By standing when it's easier to bow. And then, he showed me myself. Not my body, my soul. A glowing, flickering flame, both wounded and beautiful. Scars I didn't know I carried lit up like stars. He placed his hand over my flame, and it steadied. You are more than your pain, he said. You are purpose. Suddenly, everything went still. The noise of the world hushed. He turned his face fully to me. It's time, he said. I felt something tighten, a string pulling me downward. No, I whispered. Not yet. There's more I want to know. But he simply smiled. You already know what matters. The light behind him intensified, and then, I fell. Not violently, not harshly. But like a feather released from a hand. I was falling. But not like gravity pulling a body down. It was like being lowered through layers of memory and feeling. I passed through flashes of my life, not just the big things, but tiny, forgettable ones that suddenly glowed with meaning. Maya's hand in mine as we crossed a parking lot. The time I helped my neighbor carry groceries without asking why she looked so tired. The morning I stood by the ocean, just breathing, whispering thank you with no one else around. Every small kindness had weight. Every unnoticed prayer had power. As I drifted downward, I felt resistance. Not from the air, from myself. I'm not ready, I said. But I wasn't being asked. I was being sent. Below me, the chaos still churned. Coral beach, half gone. Debris floating like dead memories. People screaming. Others stunned into silence. I saw emergency responders wading through waist-high water. I saw someone being pulled onto a roof. Then I saw her. Maya. Wrapped in a silver blanket. Eyes wild. Clutching my sister's hand. She was alive. And she was waiting. The scene shifted. I wasn't just falling, I was being stitched back into time. Into skin. Into pain. Into breath. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the water anymore. I wasn't in my body either. I was in a place like a hallway without walls, a crossing between two realities. The atmosphere was golden but not from light. It was golden from presence. I felt the presence of souls. Thousands of them. Some passing on. Some waiting. Some hovering, undecided. I could hear their stories, not with ears, but with my spirit. A boy who died in a car crash asking if his mother would be okay. A soldier from a war decades ago, wondering if the people he hurt ever found peace. A woman crying, not because she was gone, but because she had left her son with angry words. And still, peace lingered over it all. Jesus stood with me again. He was different now. Not in form, but in intensity. His light was closer, sharper. Why are they here? I asked. They're in between, he answered. This is where souls pause. Where I speak, and they decide. Decide what? To receive love, or reject it. I looked around, stunned. You mean, even now? They have a choice? Always, he said. Love never forces. I saw some walking forward into brilliance, like they were being drawn home. Others turned away, fading into mist. But why would anyone turn away? His answer cut deep. Because some people believe they are too broken to be forgiven. They carry shame like armor. And shame keeps them from me. I felt a tightening in my chest, not physical, but soul deep. I remembered how long I lived afraid that I wasn't enough. How often I wore a smile to hide exhaustion. How many times I thought, maybe I'm not worth saving. And yet, he was here, with me. Still holding me, still calling me. He turned to me again. I want to show you something else. This time, we stood in a vast room. No walls. No floor. Just a sea of books, giant, glowing, endless. What is this place? He walked among them like a teacher in a sacred library. These are the books of lives. Every soul. Every story. He stopped in front of one, mine. I didn't want him to open it. Not because I feared punishment. But because I feared seeing my life through his eyes. But he opened it anyway, and what I saw undid me. He didn't show me my failures. He showed me the consequences of my silence. The woman I didn't comfort when I sensed she was breaking inside. The teen girl who lingered too long at the cafe counter, hoping for someone to ask if she was okay, and I never did. The times I felt prompted to speak love but stayed quiet because it was awkward. He didn't scold me, he just let me see. And with every missed moment, I felt a growing ache, not guilt, but longing. Every day is an invitation, he said. To be part of someone else's healing. You said you didn't know your purpose. But this was it all along. I collapsed into his presence. I didn't know, I whispered. You know now. And then the pages turned to moments I'd forgotten. The free cup of coffee to the shivering woman. The day I slipped a note of encouragement into someone's pocket. The morning I got up early just to pray, though I didn't know why. These moments were loud in heaven, he said. I looked at him through blurred vision. Why me? Why show me all this? Because I'm sending you back. I froze. The library faded. The golden light pulsed. What if I fail again? His eyes met mine with gentleness that shattered me. You will. But grace is not about performance. It's about direction. Go. Love. Speak. Don't delay. The next thing I knew, I was falling again. But this time, faster. Downward, back into skin, back into breath, back into pain. The re-entry into my body was not soft. It was like being forced through a keyhole. Suddenly I felt everything, cold, crushing pressure in my lungs, salt in my nose, the jagged stab of something sharp against my ribs. Pain came not like a scream, but like 1,000 alarms going off at once. I was alive, but buried. Somewhere under the wreckage of what had once been Coral Beach. I couldn't move. The taste of seawater. Blood. Sand. A flash of sky through broken boards. I tried to speak but could only gurgle. Above me, somewhere distant, I heard shouting. Over here. Think she's breathing. Get the jack, now. Time twisted. Every second felt like an hour. Voices, groaning wood, a creak, and then light. Real light. Not the radiant gold of heaven, but the harsh, beautiful sunlight of earth. And then hands. Dozens of them. Pulling, lifting, shouting. She's alive. She's alive. And in the middle of that chaos, I slipped away again, not to death, but into memory. Not a vision this time. A remembrance. Jesus hadn't shown it to me. But it surfaced now, uninvited, urgent. It was 2 years earlier. I'd been in my kitchen, sobbing on the floor, convinced that no one would miss me if I disappeared. Life felt gray and unfinished, like I was a placeholder in my own story. And I'd whispered, if you're real, please prove it. No thunder came. No miracle. But that day, a stranger came into the cafe, sat at the counter, and said, I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to come in here. Are you okay? I hadn't remembered it until now. That was him. Back then. Answering a prayer too fragile to say out loud. And now, he had done it again. Not with lightning. Not with spectacle. But with breath. With life. I came to again in the back of a rescue truck. The sun slanted low across the shattered horizon. Coral Beach was unrecognizable. The town that once smelled like salt and cinnamon now reeked of oil, seaweed, and smoke. Entire blocks had been stripped clean. What wasn't destroyed was underwater. Beside me, a paramedic was pressing a blanket over my chest. His hands were shaking. You shouldn't be alive, he muttered. We found you with no pulse. No breathing. 15 minutes, maybe longer. He looked down at me, confused. Like he was seeing a ghost. I didn't respond. Not because I couldn't, but because I was still somewhere in between. The images of the books, the golden threads, the voices of the waiting souls. They weren't fading. They were becoming part of me, and then I heard a name. Rachel. I turned my head, through the crowd, Maya. Running, crying, whole. My heart broke open, and I understood why he'd sent me back. Not just for her, but for the people I hadn't spoken to yet. For the lives I had passed by silently. For the moments I'd told myself weren't mine to touch. I had been shown the invisible war, the battle behind the faces, behind the pain, behind the numbness. And now I had to speak. The rescue workers tried to keep me still, but I leaned up anyway. I looked around at what was left, soaked buildings, weeping neighbors, faces smeared with ash and salt. I whispered, God's not finished. No one heard me then. But I wasn't meant to speak it to them, not yet. I was speaking it to myself, because I knew the truth now. Miracles don't always come in the storm. They come in the after. Time passed, but I didn't mark it in minutes. It moved like breath, slow, uneven, sacred. In the hours that followed, I drifted in and out, not just of consciousness, but between layers of meaning. Between body and spirit. Between earth and eternity. I saw people searching the rubble, not just for bodies, but for hope. A teenage boy dug with bare hands to pull out his dog from under a car. A man wept as he found a photograph floating in the mud, his wife on their wedding day. I saw volunteers arriving from neighboring towns with blankets, bread, and words, simple words. You're not alone. I'm here. And every time someone reached out in love, I saw it again, the thread. The light. Thin strands forming bridges through the brokenness. It was happening again, like he showed me. Heaven leaking through the cracks of disaster. Not in spectacle, but in quiet courage. And suddenly, I understood something terrifying and beautiful. Tragedy doesn't just expose weakness, it reveals light. It shakes loose the false walls we build around ourselves. And when everything falls, only love remains standing. I closed my eyes again, and there he was. Not in vision, but in nearness. I couldn't see him this time, but I felt him like a heartbeat, not outside me. Within. Like a presence that had always been there, I just hadn't noticed. His voice echoed, not in my ears, but in the deepest center of who I was. You've seen what matters. Now live it. The silence after a storm is the loudest thing in the world. Not the sirens, not the helicopters. Not the cries. But the absence. The absence of what was. That's what haunts people, not just the damage, but the emptiness. I sat, wrapped in a rough blanket, watching the shoreline where the ocean had crept back, taking lives and secrets with it. The sand was stained dark. Boats stuck in treetops. Pieces of homes like broken puzzle pieces scattered across a town that no longer had edges. And yet, people were singing. Off to my right, near the remnants of the old church steps, someone had gathered a small group. A woman with a scratch across her cheek began humming. Then another voice joined. And another. A simple song, just one line. You are still good. That was it. No verses. No chorus. Just that one defiant, trembling truth. You are still good, and I wept, not for the town, not even for myself. I wept for all the moments in my life when I didn't believe it. When I thought my unanswered prayers were proof of distance. When I assumed that silence meant rejection. But now I knew something different. Silence isn't the absence of God. It's the space He gives us, so that when He speaks, we hear Him clearly. And when He speaks, it's never to shame. Never to condemn. It's to call. To call us to rise, to call us to love, to call us to act. That's what this was all about. Not death, not disaster, but awakening. I sat still while the world rebuilt around me. I didn't speak much, not because I couldn't, but because I was listening. Listening in a way I never had before. The ocean still moved, still breathed. The wind still whispered through broken windows. Children still cried. Old men still knelt. But beneath it all, there was something else. Yearning. People were looking for more than food or water or shelter. They were looking for answers. And I knew something most of them didn't. The answer wasn't an escape. It was an awakening. Because now I understood, tragedy doesn't break the world. It reveals it. It tears away the surface so we can see what's underneath. And underneath all our comforts and distractions and pretending, we're starving. Starving for hope. Starving for meaning. Starving for God. Not religion, not rules. Not noise, but presence. Real, near, unshakable. That's what I found in the moment I died, and that's what I carried now like fire in my chest. He never left us. We just stopped listening, we stopped looking. We stopped believing that the smallest act, a prayer, a touch, a moment of kindness, could shake the heavens. But I'd seen it with my own eyes. One child's prayer lit up a neighborhood. One act of love pierced the darkness, and now I was one of those lights. Not a savior, not a preacher, just a witness. And if you saw what I saw, if you stood where I stood, you'd never waste another breath, because every breath matters. I felt it before it happened, the moment everything shifted. Not around me, inside me. One moment I was sitting on a folding cot, staring at the broken coast of Coral Beach, my heart heavy but strangely at peace. The next, I was somewhere else. Not heaven. Not the in-between, but home. Not in the earthly sense, but in the eternal one. The presence was back closer now, as if it lived in my veins. No more visions. No more distance. Just truth, and the truth was this. I had died, I had seen the other side. I had stood before Jesus Christ himself. And I had been sent back, not to survive, but to speak, and so I did. I sat up, my ribs ached, my throat burned, my skin was raw, but I was alive. No one had noticed yet, they were busy moving stretchers, handing out water, yelling instructions. But I didn't need anyone to notice, I didn't need applause or lights or microphones. I had one job, and I was going to do it. I climbed off the cot. Stumbled once. Caught myself. Then I looked toward the ocean, calm now, pretending it had never raged. And I spoke, to no one, to everyone, to you. He is real, I said. I died. I met him. And he's coming back. But before that, he's calling. Calling you to forgive. To repent. To pray. To love. Don't wait for disaster to wake you up. Wake up now. Because every breath matters. Then I closed my eyes and wept. Not for what was lost, but for what was found. The end.